Yes, I knew this wasn't going to be a 10-minute one this morning, so we're having to make it a second 10 minutes. That funny noise is me fiddling about with my shoe. My gut's perfectly alright this morning. Just thought I'd let you know in case you were wondering. Yes, IBS is one of those strange things. Makes it dangerous to fart because you can never be sure. Actually, I suppose I ought to go to one of these guru-led seminars and let one off. Oh dear me. Yes, and hopefully poison the the person who's scrounging you out of your money. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, I knew loads of people who were into Sai Baba. Well, I wasn't, and I thought they were nuts. And they used to hand around this ash. They said, if you put this ash on your tongue, it will cure you, Colin. I did it too. Anyway, on a more serious note, he turns out to be a paedophile. Surprise, surprise! The saddest thing is that those of us that have holes in our souls will do almost anything. I will tell you a story that in the 90s, in the early 90s, there was an article in one of the spiritualist newspapers about this middle-aged couple who to me at that time were quite old. Well, they would be, wouldn't they? I mean, I was only just sort of 30-something or late 20s even. I can't quite remember when this was. It was either in the late 80s or the very early 90s. I think it was the very early 90s, in which case I was 30-something. Anyway. And there was this article about these two people that were healers, a husband and wife team. And it was suggested that, you know, all sorts of claims were made for them. So I went off and managed to get myself an appointment. Before we go anywhere else, I have to tell you that I wasn't charged. This was all free, which sort of endeared me to them in the first place when I found that out, that this wasn't, no, they didn't charge. You know, they were doing the Lord's work, so they didn't charge. Anyway, I get there. And this really nice middle-class couple with a beautiful home. I mean, it was one of these listed buildings, you know, it had thatched roof and black beams and white walls, whitewashed walls, and it was really lovely. I would have loved to have had that house. I mean, it was very nice. Anyway, so I always beat around the bush. We get around to the healing part, and they explain what was going to happen, and I thought, well, I've been through this sort of thing before, you know, it's... Oh, but actually, no, I hadn't. That what they did was somewhat weird. Anyway, so I was told to lay down, which I did, and I had a cushion to put my head on, and he sat behind me, sort of cradling my head, and I thought, oh, okay, that's alright, I don't mind that. And she knelt in front of me, and she put hands on my knees, and they both told me to close my eyes, and they both said a prayer. And they're giving me healing, and then all of a sudden I could hear, noises like that. And I'm thinking, I didn't open my eyes, I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on here? And then it was, and I sort of did have a squint at my eye then, and I sort of opened one half like that, and the woman was sort of, well, I don't know what she was doing. I thought, she can't be having an orgasm. Not just from touching my knees, surely. Well, you get the idea. She was pulling faces and making funny noises. And, anyway, I didn't feel relaxed, I have to say. And normally if I have laying on of the hands healing, I do feel very relaxed, and it is something I have quite regularly. And no, I don't have it because I think they're going to cure me. That's not what it's about. Well, not what it's about for me anyway. It's just a really nice feeling, and for half an hour I can be out of my body and not feeling any pain, and it's wonderful. But anyway, that isn't what happened here. So eventually it finishes, and the husband says, oh, we're going to bring you back now. And they start saying a prayer, and I'm thinking, I never went anywhere, you fucking twat. How could I with her making that noise? Anyway, of course I was far too polite to say anything like that. And right, I know I'm talking about this lightly, but this wasn't light at the time. You know, I was desperately searching for a way to get rid of the pain I was in. And anyway, when it was over, they gave me a cup of tea, and then the woman said that she had removed the spirit of a 6-year-old girl that had attached itself to me when I was a little boy. And I thought, oh yeah. And I thought, oh, I think I know what's coming here. And she said, oh yes, said, within 2 weeks you'll be alright. And, you know, and the only reason you are gay is because this little girl had attached herself to you, and it was all her feelings and everything that you were experiencing. Sort of makes you wish you had a baseball bat, doesn't it? But that's only what I think now. At the time, I left feeling extremely distressed and thinking, excuse me, but I've had my life with John for quite some time now, and if in 2 weeks' time I turn out to be straight, how the fuck do I explain that to him? Because I was possessed by the spirit of a little 6-year-old girl who didn't understand that she was dead and she needed to go. See, there's an awful lot of crap people believe in. And do you know what was behind all this? They were bigots. That's all. They were homophobics. They couldn't accept my sexuality, so they had to go through all that stupid rigmarole and taking advantage of someone who was clearly vulnerable and just causing more damage to me. I've come across all sorts of nonsense like that. I went somewhere, I was sent by somebody that I trusted to see somebody, a therapist. And that's all he was into, trying to make me straight. And again, this was in the, no, this was in about 88, something like that. So I gave up then. Do you know, I went and I saw a bloody priest who was a counsellor, forgot my fucking appointment. There I am, sat outside his house, he never shows up. So needless to say, I never saw him again. And then I saw another one, that the first thing he told me was that I was going to fall in love with him, and don't worry, it's quite normal that patients transfer. Well, I never bothered to see him again either. I thought, I'm not falling in love with you, you're ugly. But I was switched on enough to understand that I did not want therapy with this twat. And then I went somewhere else, and actually I have to say these people were really nice. It was all free, and it was at the Admiral Trust, the Red Admiral Trust. But unfortunately what happened was that he got me to a certain point where my feelings started to erupt, and I started to cry, and I just could not stop. And he suddenly says, your hour's up. And I'm in bits. I can barely move. And I had to sit out in my car for hours until the shaking and the sobbing stopped. Needless to say, I never went back. So, well, I'm not too sure what the point of all my talking is this morning. But there's some of the experiences I've had, and I'm just trying to convey that it's not just wacky born-again Christians who have wacky ideas. You know, I've been involved with Jehovah's Witnesses, Roman Catholicisms, Roman Catholics is what I meant to say, Seventh-day Adventists, Mormons, some Hindu thing that, or an Indian thing that you're supposed to be all blissed out on. I never felt blissed out unless I took a drug.